So you and I were starting to talk just 2 weeks ago, and then you had to jump off. The air raid sirens just went off.
3 a.m. It was exactly the date I think that we were setting to have this meeting. And at 3 a.m., we got a message in our cell phones, and it said extreme alert. Be close to a shelter. You don't need to enter a shelter at this moment, but we never got that kind of message. Usually, if something is going on, we have a system, we have an app, and the alarm goes off. But this was like something new is starting here. It's extreme alert. This can be super dangerous. Be close to a shelter. And immediately we got, we get into the news and we know that life stopped. There are no jobs. Nothing is going to be open. Only very, very important basic things. The hospitals were running and the stores, so you can get food, water, whatever you need. Basic things, nothing else. And so in my area, we had between 1 to 3 alarms a day, usually are in the middle of the night. So you wake up with the alarm, with extreme alert, that is 10 minutes before the alarm. You gather your family, you run to the shelter. Some people, they have a shelter inside their apartments or their homes. And some people, we have a shelter downstairs where all the neighbors will join together and will go underground. So that's what we've been doing for the entire week, just running in the middle of the night and going back to sleep. And sometimes, waking up a couple hours later. And well, the missiles this time, they were very powerful and they hit some places nearby my home. The closest was 5 minutes from my house. So we can totally hear that and then hear the ambulances and people running and all of that.
You live in Jerusalem? Where do you live?
I live in Israel, that in Petah Tikva, that is 20 minutes close to Tel Aviv. So my area is considered the center of Israel.
All of Israel were catching bombs. Is that right? Catching missiles? Are they just concentrating on Tel Aviv and Jerusalem?
No, it was everywhere. It was like you usually have alarms according to the areas, but this time was the entire country. And every night we were having between 100 and more missiles a day. So it was the entire place.
How is it?
Yes.
You're a Latter-day Saint in the Holy Land. How's that?
It's very different from being a Latter-day Saint in any other part of the world. We are allowed to get together with the people from our church, but we're not allowed to proselyte. We cannot talk about the church. If some people, they are our friends and they have questions, we can just say that we go to a church, but we cannot talk about doctrine. We cannot teach them. If we pray, how we pray, what exactly do we do, what is the temple, nothing. So we kind of feel like you live in hiding, but not because you're embarrassed or not because you don't want to share. It's just, those are the rules here. Yeah, so from one side, you don't have the pressure of always having to invite everybody and, telling them, come see what we do. In the other hand, you see situations when people want to go to church and you have to stop them at the door. Or there have been people that even, they stand at the door and they say, this is a free country. I want to be able to get inside this room and see what's going on. And we politely have to explain that it has nothing to do with us rejecting the people. These are just the rules of the country. The country has put some rules on us because this is a Jewish country and this is how they want to keep it. And obviously we respect that.
Now, you're not Jewish, are you? Are you Jewish?
I'm not Jewish. I am originally from Bolivia. Yeah, from La Paz, Bolivia.
Okay. So what was your life like before you found the church? Let's just start there.
Well, I met the church when I was 13 years old. And so this is my house, and there's a house in the middle, and there's the church. So the church was really close to my house. I could see the door whenever someone was inside the building, and when it was open or closed. I know when someone is late. So whenever I have to go to church, I look from my window, I go and, but before that, my family is not from the church and they are not religious people. They don't have anything to do with any religion. But one time I remember I was on my window just looking at my friends playing outside, and this group of youth, they were also kind of, they joined the games and stuff. And they invited me over for basketball, because at the time they had all kinds of teams and sport days and all of that. So I went to play with them. And then the youth, and they were very young, they were not older, between 13 to 16, they set the missionaries to give us a lesson. And it was me and another girl, but we didn't know this was for us. We didn't know we were taking the talks. We just thought, well, this is what they do maybe in this church, everybody got together in a room. So we
Yep.
got together with them, and the missionaries started talking about the gospel. And then they invited us to another meeting, me still believing, this is one of their classes. I learned about the gospel there. Everything that they were saying, it was something that I believed in my heart already. So usually you used to get 6 talks before, but after 3, the missionary said, girls, you're ready. Let's set a date for your baptism. And so we got baptized, and it was just my friend and I. She didn't want anybody to go there and to see us all dressed up in white, and it was strange for her. And I didn't have any problems, since my family accepted my baptism, but they were not also interested on being part of any religious ceremony. So we kind of have our baptism in the church, but there was nobody there, and with the lights off, so nobody will see. And yet still, it was a sacred moment. I could feel it. It was beautiful. And it was only after my baptism that I went to church on a Sunday for the first time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, I was young, very young, and I didn't really think through.
Yeah.
They invited me over, and I was like, this is fun. I feel good here. And the next time they invited me in the middle of the week, so I was like, yeah, great. So I remember entering the sacrament meeting for the first time after being baptized already, and crossing that door, the Spirit hit me so strong. There was something strong and true and beautiful. And I remember during the talks with the missionaries, they tell you maybe you can read an Alma here and there, read Moroni, pray about it. I never read it. I never prayed about it. I liked the talks, and that was enough. But just going to church and feeling the Spirit during the sacrament meeting, I knew immediately it was true. This was a sacred place. This was God's house. That's all that I need. And so my conversion later on was, you get to read things, you get to inform yourself, but the testimony was immediate.
And none of your family ever joined after you?
Never, no.
Just you by yourself?
It was just me, and it was okay, because I think I needed a break
Yeah.
from the family environment, from school environment. This was a different thing. This was a home, and it was mine. So I loved going there on my own.
So how has your life changed after that?
I think it was a very long process, because for me the gospel was, like I was saying, a home. So you go to church and you feel that Spirit, and you come back to church to feel that Spirit again, but you don't really understand that you can create that in your own life. You go to school and you keep being the same kid you were, and you go to your family, you keep being the same kid, you don't change very much.
Mhm.
But when you go to church, you feel holy, you feel different, you feel something nice. And so that was, for many years, I was on and off. I was going to church. I was inactive for a couple months, and then I went back, and my parents are divorced. So sometimes I go to my dad and it's not the same area. And then I go with my mom. And so things were, it was never forced. The church always had like open arms whenever I decided to come back. Sometimes they will come by my house. It was so close to the chapel anyway. They will invite me over, and sometimes I will say yes or no. But I think it was a very long process of believing this is my home, but I am changing slowly. I am understanding slowly. And probably 10 years later, I can say kind of like something hit me, and I felt, okay, after all these years, I'm a different person. I believe different. I behave different. And I can really see the difference between 20-year-old Carmen and 13-year-old Carmen, um, going through many phases, like sometimes mimicking your friends in the church, sometimes trying to be a little bit more loving and not really feeling that's you, to get to the point that that is you now. You can do these things.
How did you get from Bolivia to Israel?
I got married to an Israeli guy. Well, I met him in Bolivia, but I married him in Cyprus because we cannot get married in Israel. In Israel, they don't have civil weddings.
Got
So
it.
the closest by is Cyprus. And then since then, I live here, and it's been 20 years.
Are your children members?
Yes. Yeah. So I actually married twice. I married the first time both Israeli guys. So the first one was a shorter marriage, and the second one was longer, but it's over. But in both of my marriages, my husbands, they were very good with accepting the church.
Mhm.
They were never baptized because being Jewish is a very important part of the Israeli personality and living and family traditions. But they were really good at not smoking and not drinking, driving me to church. I didn't have a driving license at the time. Driving me to church, taking my children, and later on, both of my kids have had baby blessings and they were baptized. And they Adam, my oldest, is 12 now, so he got the priesthood, and everything was fine. It was okay, it was accepted, it was supported. So both of my kids, they go to church. The church here is in English
Good.
because most of the people speak English in the church.
Very,
So
very
for a long period of time, it wasn't easy on the children. And they refuse to go to primary because they don't understand what they're saying, and they don't get the lessons. They know the lessons because I teach them at home. But at the moment when they're there and they're singing in English and they're making activities in English, it was hard. Then COVID hit and everything was online, so that was easier for my family. I was able to have primary in Hebrew in my own home, and then we got all kinds of Zoom meetings, so they will get their own class in Hebrew. And today, that they are way better in English, they enjoy their classes, but everything was a process. Nothing was easy.
You have any interesting experiences you can share with us where you were able to share the gospel? Maybe in Bolivia, not necessarily in Israel.
I always invited friends, especially to the Institute. I think the Institute was awesome. In La Paz, where I come from, we have many members of the church. We are probably 2 million people in the city, and there are like 100,000 members of the church.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, so the church is big, and we have chapels everywhere. So our institute place was big, and we had lots of classes and lots of things. And no one of my friends ever got baptized, but all my best friends always went to the institute with me, and they remember to this day how much they loved it, how much the environment was beautiful.
Nice.
Whenever I have an opportunity to share something about a specific talking conference, I still share with them, and they say that this is precious and it's beautiful. But yet the culture is very Catholic in Bolivia, and many people just want to keep it there that way, and that's fine. One of my best friends went with me to the institute, to eternal marriage, and I remember we were like, yes, this is so beautiful and we want to do things this way. And she ended up converting to be a Muslim, to the Islam, but she keeps applying the things that she learned, and she teaches me things about her religion, and like we kind of join all the good things and try to do our best.
Nice. I think you probably planted a lot of seeds with that. And who knows how long it takes for a seed to germinate. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that the most important job I made is with my own family, because growing children in a country that is Jewish,
Yeah.
and Judaism is so important. And having children that are very strongly based in the gospel, that they love the gospel, that they love the church, that they love serving, they pray and they read the scriptures, and they, their heart love God. I think that's, the biggest work I've ever done. So I'm really proud of them. And they, children, they keep on their own and they do things based on what you teach, but it's not a continuation of you. And
Yeah.
I'm so proud of them and really grateful. And, I told them, when you go to school, don't mention, that don't say that you're Jewish, but don't mention that you're from a different religion. And after some years, people already know them, the teachers know them. And so they started sharing that they're Christian, and they realized there are other Christian children that they came from for different reasons, from different places. And they can talk about that a little bit between them. So that was really nice to see. Something that I would like to share is that living in Israel has been transformative for me. And when I came to live in Israel, I never thought I'm going to the Holy Land. I'm going to learn all these things. I met someone and this was his country and we decided to live in this country. I had no agenda for ever, going to Jerusalem and really feeling anything. But it was really special, because when you're here, you're like, okay, you go to church and they say, okay, we're going to take you to some places, and you go to Jerusalem and you walk in the same path where Jesus was carrying the cross, and then you go to the Golgotha where the cross was, and then you visit the two different points where they believe that it was the grave, and how your heart react to all these places and how your heart react to all the rest of the people. Because I'm not talking about wartime, but when there is a regular time in Israel, Jerusalem is full of believers, and it's so touching to your heart.
Mhm.
Seeing people in groups, young, old, and singing hymns in different languages and praying in different languages and just loving the same God and loving the same Christ in their own understanding, with their own scriptures, with their own holy books. And go to the Western Wall where you can see all the Jewish people praying and begging for the things that their hearts want. And then you have the opportunity to go to the Sea of Galilee. And I remember one time, because the church there is just in front. So you have the Sea of Galilee in the back, and you can see it through the window. And I was talking about the miracles of Christ. And I said, my favorite miracles of Christ were at the Sea of Galilee, when he was walking in the water, when he was calming the storm. And I turn around and I say, actually, here, behind me. So those moments were so beautiful to live and to be able to see how the Sea of Galilee is so small. It's a very small lake. But when you go there, especially in the evening, it becomes very wild. And it's very weird, because lakes usually are calm,
Right.
but this one is very alive and it becomes very scary, and the waves are high. So if you live there, when you can go there and when you can, and at what hours you can swim there. And I can totally picture Christ calming the storm, walking in that water, visiting Capernaum, visiting Nazareth, being in Bethlehem, and all these places. I don't think I had ever the will to say, yeah, that place is going to change me. But it definitely gave so much to my testimony. And it added up a lot, especially knowing that the people around, they still look the same. They still behave the same. They still speak the same language. And it's a little bit like traveling in time.